Hi, my name is Oswald Sabrino, and I'm the author of this new book, Five Lessons from Pope Leo XIV, the Pope of the Roman Catholic Church and the first American born Pope. Why did I write this book? Leo XIV is a leader in continuity with his close friend and associate, Pope Francis, who is carrying on the emphasis on mercy and social justice that was the hallmark of the papacy of Pope Francis, who recently died. Leo is an intelligent, well-educated American with an incisive mind who writes clearly and is a good teacher who knows how to organize his document and his materials to emphasize key points for the reader. His encyclical Magnifica Humanitas, it's a Latin title which means magnificent humanity. A lot of Catholic teaching documents are given Latin titles because of the historic connection of Latin with the Church. And here the focus is on the challenges of AI to humanity, preserving the grandeur of our humanity in the face of the tremendous impact that AI, artificial intelligence, is making as we speak. And AI is progressing rapidly. We are lucky and fortunate to have a mature, spiritual, wise, and prudent voice like that of Pope Leo XIV addressing this issue as it's gaining momentum in our lives and our society. In contrast to all the extremist voices we see in politics today in the United States and in other countries, Leo, like Francis, is a voice of sanity and restraint, calling us to be better and to focus on humane ways to live and relate to others. He addresses his encyclical to Catholic believers, but also to other Christian believers, and also to all people of goodwill, even if they have no religious belief whatsoever. And I think readers of all backgrounds will find something of value. So let me give you an overview from my introduction of the book so you can know what to expect. And I begin the introduction by saying that we are quite fortunate in having, since 2013, two great popes, Francis and his protege, Leo XIV. Leo continues, it's quite clear, is continuing the good work of Pope Francis. What I want to make clear is that I share my own views and reactions to the document Magnifica Humanitas. I'm not speaking for Pope Leo XIV. I invite all my readers, as I do in my book series, to go back to the original document and think about it and make up your own mind as to what Pope Leo XIV is saying. What my book contributes is an overview, a summary of key points in the document on AI, and I also give my own reactions. You may agree with them or disagree. That is your right, and I expect that to take place. But I do not speak for the Pope. I'm simply a lay person drawing inferences. The Pope, as a spiritual global leader, is not a politician and rarely makes specific political statements. I, as a layman, am a different category. If I read something in the document that applies to our American situation or the situation abroad, even if politically I have the latitude and freedom to comment on it, always making clear that it's my own view, my own inference, and not that of Pope Leo XIV, who is obviously speaking at a higher level as a global spiritual leader of the Catholic Church. So Leo is very organized in his document, and in chapter 1 and in his introduction, he gives us the history of social doctrine, the social doctrine of the Catholic Church. Many Catholics have little awareness about that, and I'm assuming non-Catholics have even less awareness that the Catholic Church, as part of its authoritative teaching, has a social doctrine about how its values, its morality, its beliefs apply to society and the events taking place in society and in politics. He introduces the history of social doctrine, mentioning various popes who contributed to it, beginning primarily with Pope Leo XIII, for whom Pope Leo chose his own name, Leo, who was pivotal in formalizing and consolidating Catholic social teaching from prior centuries. In chapter 2, then he goes into the basics of that social doctrine. In a nutshell, Catholic social doctrine does not believe in unfettered capitalism. The dignity of the human person precedes the goal of maximizing profit or maximizing utility or maximizing pleasure, whichever way you want to phrase it. In addition, basic to Catholic social doctrine is what Catholics call a preferential option for the poor, that we need to pay special attention in our political and social decisions and setup on the needs of the most vulnerable, on the most needy, and the most marginalized who live on the edges or peripheries, as Francis used to say, of our society. And he speaks about a clash of paradigms, especially seen with the rise of artificial intelligence, a technocratic paradigm that is based on power and control and maximizing profit and on letting the technology dictate our lives. In contrast, the other paradigm, the paradigm of Catholic social doctrine, is that human dignity comes first. Technology is a tool and an instrument. And central to Catholic ethics and social doctrine is that the human person is not a mere instrument or means, but each human being has a dignity that makes the human being an end in himself or herself. And then he gets specific about AI and digital technology in general in chapter 4, talking about protecting or safeguarding humanity, the Latin word humanitas. And he gives great insight and recommendations to make sure that technology is accountable to people, that it is transparent, and that it is not the plaything of elites who are focused on profit. And finally, in chapter 5 and in his conclusion, he emphasizes a phrase from Pope Paul VI in building a civilization of love, a civilization in which we value humanity, protect its uniqueness, its grandeur, and don't equate the cleverness of AI with human learning and intelligence, which takes place through relationship, through limitations, through wisdom from experience, and to our relationships and friendships and concern for others. So it's a great document. It's not just about AI. It gives you an overview of Catholic social doctrine in general. That's crucial. In addition, it's a great introduction to the Catholic faith for Catholics or new Catholics or people who are just curious. Because in applying the Catholic faith to this, we are able to understand in a more profound way basic Catholic beliefs such as the Trinity, the communion of three divine persons in one God, a better understanding of the Eucharist, called in many other traditions the Lord's Supper or Holy Communion, and a better understanding of what Jesus in the Gospel demands, that we pay attention to the vulnerable, especially in Matthew 25, it's quite explicit, to those who are hungry, who are needy, and who are otherwise marginalized and in need. So I highly recommend the book because Pope Leo is a wonderful voice today of sanity and maturity in a world full of a lot of crazy voices amplified by digital technology and by some of the actions and uses of artificial technology. Thank you.